Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So, what's on tap for today? Well, folks, I've been waiting for this one to do a reaction video to the four women in the grand jury in the Atlanta case in Fulton County about elections, right? So, we're going to get to all that. She's being interviewed on CNN by Kate. I'm not the bold one. And this interview with this person, talk about being weird. Folks, this is one weird person. And the thing that I'd like to ask is, how in the world, when you look at this video, did the other people in the grand jury panel said, this is the person, her, she's the one that we know that's going to understand everything. She's the smartest person out of all of us. Unbelievable, folks. We're going to get to this in just the next few seconds. But before we do so, we just want to let you know that you're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your guest host. My name is Dr. Nasir. Please, if you ever does so, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, like, share, and follow us. Let's get to the video of Emily Kohrs, four-woman of the grand jury with Kate Baldwin.
But we do know, of course, one of the biggest questions remaining for everyone that wasn't in that jury room with you is how many people are in trouble here? What can you tell us about how many people you recommended as a group to face indictments?
Isn't she just so happy to be there? She's all giddy and laughing, I mean, she just can't wait to tell everybody and get her 15 minutes of fame. And she's just acting so absolutely weird. Watch her mannerisms, folks. Watch them very closely.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And I'm hesitant to speak to something that the judge made a decision not to share.
But I'm still going to talk to you.
I don't know if everyone's aware of this, but there was a hearing about what parts of the report should and should not be published in its various forms, and the list, well, the sections that were removed were consciously chosen to be removed. And I don't want to say I have better judgment than the judge.
That's totally understandable. Would you say, when it comes to, there are indictments recommended, of course. Is it
Yes.
more than 12 people? Is it more than 20 people?
I think if you look at the page numbers of the report, there's about 6 pages in the middle that got cut out. Allow for spacing. It's not a short list.
Not a short list. More, I mean, when it comes to 75 witnesses, like, it's not, I assume, of course, it's not 75 people. Would you characterize it as 20-ish people?
I can't say I counted.
Okay. More than a dozen, though, I think I'd heard you say in another interview?
I believe so. That's probably a good assumption.
The name that everyone wants to know about is former President Trump.
Of course.
Did you recommend charges against Donald Trump?
I really don't want to share something that the judge made a conscious decision not to share. I will tell you that it was a process where we heard his name a lot. We definitely heard a lot about former President Trump, and we definitely...
Because it was about the election, so of course you're going to hear a lot about him. This is how I classify a lot of people, folks. Part of the acronym I've coined, SIMR, S-I-M-R, stupid, idiotic, moronic, retarded, but at a higher level. These people are just unbelievable. Let's continue with Emily Kohrs.
Discussed him a lot in the room, and I will say that when this list comes out, there are no major plot twists waiting for you.
You know, it's interesting. That just raises more questions of
I know, I'm sorry.
No, please do not apologize. I'm very appreciative of your time. When you say there's no plot twists and people won't be shocked, people are gonna hear that and they're gonna think that means that Donald Trump is definitely on that list. I know it's delicate, but can you?
How does Kate come up with that? my rendering of that is if there's no major plot twists, no major, things going on, to me, if I were sitting there as Emily Kohrs, oh my God, I can't even imagine. But I mean, somebody else up there, they would be going, you're not going to believe what's happening. It's an unbelievably plot twist that occurred over here. She's like, oh, no major plot twist or whatever. So Kate takes from that, oh, that means, of course, that Donald Trump's being indicted. Let's continue.
Can you speak to that?
I can't.
I
Well,
understand.
I might be able to, according to instructions, but I don't want to. I don't want to speak out on something that the judge, like I said, consciously chose not to release at this point. I don't know if I would interfere with the DA's investigations. I don't know if I would interfere with procedures in some way. I very much do not want to cross that line.
But in your view, people will not be surprised when they see the list of names to come out who you recommended to face indictment.
Especially if they've been following the investigation, I can't see it being a shocker.
Donald Trump put out a statement last week about the partial report that the judge did release, the pages that he did. And the way that he described it is he said that yet your report means total exoneration for him, is how he put it in his statement. What's your reaction to that, Emily?
I did see that today, which was fascinating. I'm not positive he read the right document, but I will say that if what he was talking about was our statement where we indicated that there was no evidence of widespread fraud or widespread vote fraud in the Georgia 2020 election, that might have been what he meant. Other than that, I'm not positive what he meant by that. I'd be interested to know.
I'm sure we will hear more from him after it all comes out. The portion of the final report that has been released, there's another portion. That part that you just talked about was of great interest to a lot of us, but also the other portion that obviously demands a lot of attention is also the portion, and I'll read this for everyone, where you all wrote, a majority of the grand jury believes that perjury may have been committed by one or more witnesses testifying before it. Is perjury the crime that you all believed was the main crime you all believe was committed?
GetRefunds.com, powered by Innovation.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that it ended up included there because it was less pointed of a suggestion than some of the other things we may have written in the parts of the report the judge chose to keep confidential.
Like less specific to a person?
Right, right. I would say that we thought it was important to keep it separate as well. Okay, I will say that I thought it was important to keep it separate as well, at least in my opinion, not anybody else's but mine, that there's a difference between the crimes we were called to investigate and crimes that were committed in the room.
How would you describe the strength of the evidence that was put before you?
The strength of it.
Was it clear cut?
We heard a lot of very compelling things. Like a lot of very compelling evidence. A lot of very interesting.
Yeah, like there might have been some fraud being committed, right? In terms of, or election, ballots just appearing out of nowhere, those kind of things. There's a bunch of stuff that was out there. We were just absolutely shocked and surprised as to what we saw. Unbelievable. But there's a lot of things that I can comment on, but I can't comment on. But the judge says that we couldn't comment on, so I've got to decide what I'm going to do here. This person, folks, this is unbelievable. This is what our judicial system, unfortunately, is that, it's people that are basically unemployed. I mean, who else can sit around for months? All right, in a case, this is who decided the fate of people, of you and I, citizens. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Things and things that we didn't expect. We discovered a lot as we went.
Like, we know that you all heard at least one call that Donald Trump was on during this period. This
Yes.
is the infamous call that the whole world has heard as it was released when
Yes.
he was speaking to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. But in terms of just calls and recordings of calls, are there others of those?
I can tell you I heard other phone calls. I don't think I could name all of them right now if I wanted to. After 75 witnesses in 8 months, it gets hard to keep all your bits straight.
Other calls that Donald Trump was on?
Yes, I'm positive I have heard the president on the phone more than once.
Some of the big name witnesses who came before you, they really fought against coming before you. They didn't want to testify, but they were forced to. They were told by the judge that they needed to, like Mark Meadows, Donald Trump's former chief of staff. What stood out to you from his testimony?
Mr. Meadows didn't share very much at all and was not very willing to speak on much of anything. He asserted his rights under the Fifth Amendment and under executive privilege, which he absolutely had the right to do. And that was pretty much that.
You know, this wasn't just a few days of jury duty. I've been kind of thinking about this as we were going to speak today. I mean, this was more than 7 months of your life, and dealing with one of the most closely scrutinized investigations in recent political history. I mean, what is your lasting impression of this process, Emily?
I've loved being a part of this process. I think it's amazing to actually be able to be a part of this process for once. I think it's a privilege to be able to actually be a part of the system for once and making it work. This has been fascinating to get this peek into the world of like politics and of all these different, of government and of all these different things, and, you know, have the curtain lifted just a little bit and let us peek in as regular people has been amazing, and I'm so glad that I did it.
And so after that, when it's all said and done and the DA makes her final decision on charging, what do you say to people who question your findings or want to say that your investigation, what you all were doing in that room, was influenced by politics?
I think that's the opposite. I think that by choosing to have a grand jury, by choosing to impanel regular people, they very specifically chose to avoid politics, to take bias out of the question, because they chose to get, instead of anyone else, they chose to get 16 random people. They could have gotten, you know, if they had wanted someone who was just gonna support their opinions, they could have gone and hired a bunch of legal experts. There were all kinds of choices that could have been made there, but they chose to get a random sampling of the population of the area, and I think that speaks really strongly to them trying to avoid bias in any way and trying to avoid politics.
After everything that you've seen, what would your reaction be if the DA decides against bringing any charges after what you've seen?
I will be sad if nothing happens. Like that's about my only request there is for something to happen. I don't necessarily know what it is. I'm not the legal expert. I'm not the judge.
That's right. You're not the legal expert. You're not the judge. You're just a stupid, idiotic, moronic, retarded person who didn't have the smarts. And that's what happens with jury duty. You don't have the gall, the smarts up here to get out of it. Most people get out of jury duty because they have other better things to do. That's not to say that that's part of, I mean, look, you're free to do whatever the heck you want to do. Some people want, but a lot of times, for most of the majority of cases, people don't have the time to spend in jury duty, and they certainly don't compensate you greatly for the time that you're spending over there. So for somebody that's in between jobs, doesn't have a job, doesn't really care, for her to say, it took a little peek into politics, you know, we basically lifted the curtain, it did this, it did that, whoop-de-doo, it did blah, 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 blah. I mean, that should have nothing to do with it. Politics should have nothing to enter inside there. This should have been completely unbiased. And by her coming out here and showing her bias, showing her on the social media pages and the other interviews that she's done, she has completely tainted whatever jury pool is going to be there in Georgia. So again, I'm so happy that all the media cartels, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, they're all falling over themselves, rushing, trying to get to Emily Kohrs. Come on our show, come on our shows. We need the ratings. We need the ratings. And she's coming in there and she's speaking and talking, and she's just absolutely destroying any credibility about the impaneling of this grand jury that's going to supposedly give its opinions, and what, if there is anybody that indictment should go, indictment should fall, or indictment should be against somebody, and just sort of give their view after listening to all the evidence, what they feel needs to be done. And she's certainly tainted that pool. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been the guest host today. My name is Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, like, share, and follow us. I'll leave you with my final thought, which is, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.